kit number 1 is called Spring Sensation, and it's a bright and cheery card for those back end of winter months when all the tulips and the daffodils and the crocuses are all coming out, and it's a perfect card for anybody just to cheer them up in those sad months that we've had. Now, included in this kit you have sentiments for birthday, you have anniversary sentiments, you've also got just a generic with love, you've also got a get well soon, and of course the standard happy birthday one. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this one. So we're starting off with our basic standard 6x6 card blank. This is just cut down from an A4 sheet at 148 by 297 and then folded at the 148 part again. So a standard card blank, and all we're going to do is just put this together. I'm going to use wet glue just for my normal layers, and then I've got obviously foam pads for my pyramid layers too. So I've already cut all my pieces out. Okay, because you don't want to sit there watching me cutting everything out. Now, before I do start, what I want to do is I want to go around and I'm going to use a green and a yellow distress marker. Now, this one is mustard seed, and I've also got peeled paint. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the brush tip end, and I'm going to hide all those raw edges, all those white edges, just by running the tip of the pen all the way around each one. And all that will do is, if I've not been very good with the cutting out, it means that I'm going to be hiding any mistakes that I make. Now, I'm right-handed, so obviously I'm going to hold my pen in the right hand, and I always hold the images so that they're facing to the left. Now, this means that if I make a mistake and I happen to slip, it's going to go on the back end, not the front end. So I'm not going to get any horrible marks down the front of my card. So you're not going to see any of those. So I'm just going to run the pen all the way around all my layers, and before I even start putting it together, and literally just hide any white raw edges. Now, a lot of people say that they use a dark coloured pen to go around, but I always think I only use a dark coloured pen if the image that I'm using in the production of my card has a dark border or a dark edge. Obviously this doesn't, so why would I use black? I'm using a complementary colour. So I'm going to switch over to the green, and I'm just going to go around the edge of my sentiment with the green there. Okay, now you've seen me do this now, so you don't really want to sit there and watch me do all of this. So I will finish off and I will join you when I've finished. Okay, so I've gone around all of the layers. I've even gone around my matte layers too. And I'm going to put those two pens away now because I'm not going to need those. Now, before we go any further, on the original card I put the happy birthday sentiment there. For this one I'm going to use the happy anniversary sentiment. So I've already punched that out. Now, these are the ones that are included in the kits. Now, as a lot of you already know, we tend to try and use shapes for our sentiments that are a bit unusual, but that you don't have to cut out. Now, this is the coordinating punch that matches the shapes on that CD. Now, you'll see us use quite a few of these shapes, and like I say, it fits absolutely perfectly. There you go. So you don't have to cut out. Now, that's a Stampin' Up punch, and this one is called the bracket label punch. So that's the bracket label punch, and that's the one that's compatible with the sentiments on kit 1. Okay, so I can put those to one side now because I'm not going to need those, and we'll start actually constructing the card together, or putting it together. Well, I suppose really constructing it together, because you're with me, aren't you? Okay, so as I said, I'm going to use wet glue on my base layers. So all I'm going to do is just add the glue all the way around, providing that it doesn't clump, for the base layer. Now, on this one there are some faux stitched buttonholes on one edge. Now, that wants to go on the right hand side, the opening edge. and then we'll stick that down just like that. Now the reason I'm using wet glue is because it gives me a few minutes just to be able to position that. It's got a little bit of manoeuvrability just so I can make sure that I get it where I want it before it sticks properly. There we go, just give that a little bit of a push. Okay, so the next layer is our wood layer. And again, this is going on flat. So just add the glue to the corners. And of course it does have the added advantage that when it does dry, it goes transparent. So even if you do manage to get a little bit stuck where you don't want it, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so the next layer, I'm going to put that at a little bit of an angle, just so it's breaking out of our patterned background layer, like so. And again, if you wanted to, you could add your distress inks or your, go around the edges to give it that little bit of a vintagey look. But if you're not really into that, then don't. Okay, but you could also, if you wanted to go that extra mile, you could layer up with a complementary cardstock. If you wanted to use a green base cardstock or a yellow base cardstock, you could do that also, and then do every layer. It depends just how far you want to go with your matting and your layering. But because we're giving you all these resources on the disc that comes with the magazine, and obviously you're watching that disc now, we try and show you just what you can create just using the resources that are on the disc. Just so you get a basic idea. You can embellish these as much as you want to, or not, as the case may be. I mean, you can add real ribbon, you can add real lace, you can add real buttons if you want to, you can obviously put gems and pearls, and it's really down to you. What we provide you is just the base card and the images, and then you can use your imagination or use inspiration from other cards that you've seen to add all the extra whistles and bells that you want to do on there. Add real paper flowers or little charms or whatever you want. Okay, so I've got my layers ready there to start adding in all my pyramid layers, but before I do that I'm going to stick the bow, because I want that to be tucked under and just hide that bottom edge of that topper there. Now I'm going to do this flat. I'm not going to add this on foam pads, because the layers on the pyramid topper, I want them to be raised above this, proud of that. So that's now going to go on to there. And just give that a wee push down, like so. And like I said, it doesn't matter if a little bit of the glue comes out, but I mean, you can stick this down however you want to. Okay, so we're ready to now start adding our pyramid layers. So I've already gone ahead and added foam pads to my layers. I've actually used foam tape for this rather than foam pads, because I wanted to cut it just to the size that I needed it. Now, when you're adding pyramid layers, what I was trying to do is try and line it up in one corner first, and then try and arrange it. Now I'm trying not to get my head in shot here, so you just have to bear with me. Now I'm just going to tuck that slightly underneath that bow there. That's more like it. And then I can position that just right, and then pop it down. So that's my first layer. Okay, the second layer, as I said before, I've already gone around the edges of these with one of those distress pens just to hide that white raw edge. Like I say, it does cover a multitude of sins if you've got wobbly hand syndrome, like I have when I have too much coffee in the morning. So again, position everything so that you're happy that the image is lining up, and then just gently lay it down and then put your pressure on, and then the final layer. So once again, find that point on the image, which is there, lining the dots up, and the handle, finger down, hold it in place, and then just push the rest of the topper down. And there you go, all lined up perfectly. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to add my sentiment on, and I'm just going to pop that on with another foam pad. So I shall just pop that in the middle, and I'm going to put that in the top right hand or top left hand corner. Sorry, don't know my left from my right today. About there, looking good. And then one of the final steps we need to do now is just to add our faux buttons, and I'm going to put these on with small foam pads. Now what I like to do with this is I like to actually put the foam pads where I want them on the card. So because I want them across those faux button holes, then I can position them exactly as I want them. Okay, I'll grab my pickup tool and then I can position those exactly where I need it. Now I'm not bothered about lining the holes up. Oop, I haven't taken the top of that foam pad, that's why it's not sticking. And then straight down over the top, and then the final button, like so. Okay, card is complete, almost. Okay, this is where we start to add just a little bit of embellishment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a tiny gem, and I'm just going to place that on the knot of the bow, and then I'm going to take some glossy accents, move that glue out of the way because it's casting a shadow, and I'm going to cover all of the buttons. Now I'm going around the outside first, and then I'm filling in into the middle. So around the outside first, and then fill in the middle, and then just using the nozzle to spread around the outside, and then fill in the middle. Now I'm just going to turn that upside down, because what I also want to do is give the polka dots on the watering can a little dab of the glossy accents too. That gives it a little bit of shine and texture, a little bit of added interest, and there you go. I think that's all of the polka dots. Yeah, that's all of them. Lid back on the glossy accents to stop it from clogging, and there you have it. There is the first card completed. I'll bring the other one back in, and you can see, perfect. I mean, if you're making cards to sell, this is absolutely great, because you can do 4 or 5 cards, use a different sentiment on each one, and you're ready to go. I've added a few little gems on the sentiment there. I haven't done on this one, so I shall do that now. Just pull it out of the way, because we always spot things that we could do. You can always go back in and add them all later, but there we go. I'm just going to add one on there, the top peak of the sentiment, and then one just down at the bottom there. There we go, that's better. All done and dusted. So there you go. There's the first card, Spring Sensation. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll get ready for the next one.